Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Solo ReacTalk. Tonight, I'm going to be reacting to a video requested by random dude 74. It's called "The Covenant Would Be a Great Faction for 40k." Halohammer, made on the PancreasNoWork YouTube channel. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing that name correctly. PancreasNoWork. Yeah. Hopefully, I'm pronouncing correctly. If I'm not, I'm sorry. Yeah, guys, if you want to check out the original video as well as PancreasNo's YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. And yeah, let's start. 3, 2, 1, go.
If you watch my channel and have functioning eyes or ears, a tall order I know, you're aware I like Warhammer 40k. I'll admit I don't like it as much as fantasy, so crucify me in the name of the Emperor if you must, but I like the setting a lot. But I have a confession to make. It's not the sci-fi setting I fanboy for the most.
Yeah, I haven't gone into fantasy just yet, Warhammer Fantasy. I'm still with 40k, and I think I'm going to be with 40k for the foreseeable future, so I'm not sure when I'll delve into fantasy. But yeah, it's on the list.
That distinction goes to Halo, and you know what? I haven't gushed over it nearly enough yet. So welcome to the closest thing I'm ever gonna do to a lore video. Probably. It's easy to say that now when I haven't yet run out of factions to analyze, but I digress. And I'll be honest, if you're the kind of Warhammer fan who gets conniptions over someone saying another faction in another universe could stand strong in the setting, you're gonna dislike this video. You're really gonna dislike this video.
Yeah, I don't have a problem. I don't have a problem with, you know, someone nitpicking or saying, or should I say, matching which is stronger between this universe or that universe. I don't really have an issue with that. And besides, I'm a casual fan when it comes to Warhammer 40k. I know of Halo. I've played Halo Reach. It was a nice game. But the sci-fi universe that's close to my heart, I would say it's Mass Effect. Yeah, Mass Effect and then Stargate. But yeah, Halo's good. Warhammer 40k is also very good. But yeah, you will get no hate from me if you're going to be, you know, seeing which is better in what respect, in which field of conflict or economics or technological advancement. You know, open up. And I'll also open up. Okay, let's continue.
Also, don't read the Zeely sequence books. So, in a mini-series of me showing my favoritism for my favorite sci-fi franchise, allow me to tell you why the Covenant would make a fantastic faction should they suddenly become a part of the 40k franchise.
On the blood of our fathers, on the blood of our sons, we swore to uphold the Covenant, even to our dying breath.
And before you say anything, yes, I'm aware this would never happen. This is just my wet dream of two franchises I love colliding. So for the...
You know, currently I'm watching Star Wars versus Warhammer 40k, made by A Fan With Too Much Time, the YouTuber, A Fan With Too Much Time, and he's doing amazing work, you know, making these two opposing universes clash together, you know, and seeing the different types of power levels, technological, you know, conflict with each other, and the different storylines with the different characters, whether they're part of the Imperium of Man or they're part of the Galactic Republic or the separatist government. And yeah, it's all very interesting. It's all very cool to see all of this unfold. So yeah, I think this one's also going to be interesting, you know, with the Covenant from Halo entering into the Warhammer 40k galaxy. Yeah, let's continue.
Those of you who don't know much about Halo and the Covenant, first of all, shame on you. But the Covenant are a coalition of alien races brought together by a shared religion and the belief that an ancient race known as the Forerunners were gods. It is said that the Forerunners ascended onto a greater plane of existence via the Halo rings, leaving their stuff behind for their successors, who naturally were the Covenant, which is not at all what actually happened, but people believing in a false religion is nothing new to 40k. Remember how the Emperor said he wasn't a god and religion is wrong?
Shots fired.
How's that working out for him? Some are more zealous in this belief. The elites follow it pretty closely, the prophets are fanatics, and the jackals follow it because the other option is death for being pirates. Either way, they have the military might to keep everyone in check, so there's no staying on the path of heresy forever. Kind of like the Imperium again, actually. So with the important background said and done, why do I think they'd fit in? How do I think they'd fit in? Let's do how first, because it's quicker. The Covenant could fulfill the role of generic alien species. This isn't because I think the Covenant is inherently generic, not at all, I fucking love the Covenant, but compare them to everyone in 40k. All the Xenos have a shtick. The Eldars are the various flavors of elf, the Orcs are, well, orcs. The Necrods are undead space Egyptians in space, who are also Terminators, a lot going on there. The Tyranids are a hive mind with a species-wide vor fetish, and even the Tau, who are supposedly non-magical and somewhat normal aliens, have a remarkable tendency towards scientific progress and general dynamism in responding to threats. And weeaboo robots, can't forget those. But the Covenant? There's no space magic here. There's no intense focus on technology, although their tech is nothing to look down at that. We'll get to that. They would do a great job at contrasting how batshit insane everyone around them is by being relatively normal for a sci-fi setting. They're a collection of alien races that relentlessly attack humanity. That's
The Covenant being a generic faction in Warhammer 40k, I don't know how long will that last, because this is Warhammer 40k. Either the galaxy transforms them into the rest of the factions in the galaxy, or they will have to adapt to the Warhammer 40k galaxy. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say there. You know, the environment of this galaxy is extremely chaotic and violent. Even if the Covenant don't have a connection to the warp, right? There is still external factors spewing out from the warp that will still affect them. And for instance, the Chaos Marines, you know, they'll have to deal with people like that. They'll have to deal with the Tyranids. They'll have to deal with the Orcs, especially the Orcs. The Orcs are not going to let them go. The Orcs are going to be having a party every day with the Covenant, you know. And let's not forget about the Imperium of Man. These types of factions, with all the various types of ways of doing things, are going to create, or should I say, are going to make the Covenant be as, you know, mad and as schizophrenic and as violent as the rest of the galaxy, if I can say it like that, you know. They're going to be just like the rest of the galaxy. So the notion of them being the generic aliens who are normal, you know, who are not crazy like the rest of the factions in Warhammer 40k, that won't last long. They're going to be just like everybody else in this galaxy. I can assure you on that matter. Yeah.
their shtick as a whole, even if the individual races have more to them. In 40k, that's the default for almost every Xenos faction. I mean, hell, you'd almost want to join them over anyone else. Yeah, they hate human life, but who doesn't in 40k? Sure, they have a somewhat oppressive religion, but compare that to the Imperium, who have an incredibly oppressive religion. Sure, they don't have space magic, but in 40k, is that really a bad thing? Not having to worry about getting your asshole shredded by demons for the crime of thinking too hard? So that
I think they're going to have difficulty facing up against those with space magic. You know, because they don't have any psychers, they're going to have it a bit hard in this galaxy. Just like the Tau. You know, they also don't have any psychers in their ranks. And, you know, they're limited in their understanding of the warp. And they're still young. And they don't really know what's going on in this galaxy. And just like the Covenant, they also will be completely oblivious and ignorant to what's really going on in this galaxy. They will just assume warp storms and warp anomalies and the Great Eye of Terror are just spatial anomalies that don't need to be taken notice of or you know, given any interest. And that will be their biggest mistake, as creatures from the warp spew out of these places, or their ships are caught in these warp anomalies and never to be seen again. And these are the type of things that are going to be a serious problem for the Covenant as they come into this universe. Yes, there'll be a great addition. There'll be like another Tau, another version of the Tau, because the Tau also have a collection of alien species. The Covenant have a collection of alien species. The Tau believe in the greater will. The Covenant have their religion centered around what do they call them again? I forgot. I forgot what they call their gods again. But yes, and they have the belief leadership under the control of the prophets. Like the Tau have the ethereals. So yeah, it'll just be another version of the Tau, maybe technologically a bit far superior to the Tau, but basically they'll be heading down the same scenario like the Tau, where the Tau are facing against the Orcs, the Tau are facing against the Imperium of Man, the Tau are facing against the Tyranids, and they have survived through the skin of their teeth. And I predict something similar will happen with the Covenant, where they'll be facing up against all of these factions, and they will barely just make it. Yeah.
That's how the Covenant could fit in. They could be the perfect race to highlight just how batshit insane 40k is by their comparative normalcy. Also, the names used for their shit is absolutely the stuff you'd expect to see in 40k. Their calendar has a time period called the 23rd Age of Doubt. The ships are all named things like the Shadow of Intent or the Long Night of Solace. Perfect for the setting. Anyways, let's go to why I think they'd fit into 40k. First off, a pretty goddamn diverse amount of races. Tau think they have some good inclusion rates, but they don't have shit on the Covenant. You've got the elites, brutes, drones, grunts, hunters, prophets, jackals, and all the other flavors of jackal, engineers to fix your shit right up. Got a highly varied set of units to play if you were to put these guys on the tabletop. Grunts are the perfect line holders. Move over, Imperial Guard. It's lore accurate to say they breed like rabbits too. In fact, they're basically a middle ground between humanity and the orcs in terms of how quickly they fuck. And they're armed with some pretty powerful weapons for what they are. Whoever you are, you're gonna feel a fuel rod cannon to the face. As for the next unit, if you've played Halo 2 on Legendary, then you already know what the Boulevard of Jackal Snipers is capable of. Galaxy's finest marksmen, these rat bastards. They've also got some cool energy hoplite shields for when you really need to get up close, so that's a nice bit of extra protection. Drones are great for making Master Chief want to kill himself, and they'd be great at that in a tabletop setting too. Some units with the fly keyword that would be great at harassing enemies. In fact, I think I just described swooping hawks, but buggier. You want something dead? You want that something to be a tank? These motherfuckers mean business. You do not want to be caught in front of one of them. You think you're safe from their fists, and then it shoots a plasma beam at you for 10 seconds straight. You think, alright, maybe I'll outrun it, and then it lunges 50 feet like it has the commando perk before smearing you across 3 dimensions. And of course, they come in pairs, and yes, when one dies, the other goes Super Saiyan. They're like the Hulk if the Hulk was made out of worms. But maybe you don't want the biological tank that is the hunter. Maybe you want the hairy orc that is the brute, able to take a hit and keep on going with nothing more than the power of monkey. I mean, if you've played Halo, they need no further explanation. Fuck, with the name Brute, they require no more explanation. They smack people good and hard and can take a smacking good and hard. And a gravity hammer is basically just a cooler thunder hammer anyway, so hey, they can already fit in perfectly. But maybe none of that's for you, and you want someone with some actual brains. Not a coward wearing a sailboat or a roided out chimpanzee, but a bona fide strategic mastermind. Brave as all can be and with a brawn to back it up. Well, the Covenant still has you covered with the elites. Just ask the coolest cutscene in video games to date.
Shipmaster, they outnumber us 3-1.
Then it is an even fight.
Fucking love that cutscene. Master warriors, master strategists, and masters that given some wild head. Plus, they have their own unique honor code to honor valiant warriors and respect a worthy foe, which helps them fit into Warhammer while also having a better honor code than Warhammer ones, because they aren't fucking stupid. The elites see, remember that killing an enemy who can't see you instead of charging at him from a mile away screaming isn't dishonorable, it's just smart. Mentioning no cornates. You've got the prophets and their fancy floating chairs too, can't forget them. Maybe not great in a fight, but they could certainly provide some morale and other kind of bonuses to their troops on the battlefield. And finally, for the last of the races that matter, we have the engineers. You know how the Eldar bone singers just play some tunes and that Wraith Knight is magically healed? That's engineers, but they don't use prissy elf magic, they use their tentacle hentai arms. And they do it in seconds. Literally the perfect support unit, because if they get under attack, they can just float away. Like, alright bro, I'ma head out. Sure, they themselves can't attack, but when the scarab you brought down to 1 wound has full health all of a sudden, that's not gonna matter much, is it? Think it's just infantry they can square up with? Nope. They got vehicles. You want light vehicles? They're almost all skimmers, zoom across the battlefield like an Eldar. You want heavier stuff? A Locust isn't that far off from a Knight, especially in terms of size. You might think that the Covenant has no answer for when the Titans start shooting, and that's where you're stupid and wrong and I hate you. Look at the Scarab. And so you know I'm not making it up, here's the size comparison between the Warlord, Warhound, and Scarab. Yeah, fuck you, Imperial bitches. And they
Okay, let me just pause here. Where he discussed about the different races and their attributes and their abilities and what they contribute to the Covenant. Yes, that is all good, and I can also attest to that as I've played Halo Reach. I'm thinking that with the orcs in particular, they're really going to have fun fighting against the Covenant. They're really going to have fun, especially against the brutes and the elites. They're really going to enjoy themselves. They're going to have wars every month. And that's why I'm saying that, yes, the generic tag given to the Covenant will only last for a few years, maybe. And then they will acclimatize themselves to the reality of this galaxy as they continue to fight against these different factions. They might actually head for a division of their Covenant, because in the Halo games, they also had a civil war. So in this galaxy, it might also happen. They might have a civil war. They might have a schism where those who believe in the true path of the Covenant, led by the prophets, go this way, and then those who want to face this new galaxy, in a different way, will go that way, and therefore there will be a schism between, those who support whichever side of the Covenant, and it can happen, just like all the other factions in Warhammer 40k. They've all had their own divisions, political divisions, just like the Imperium of Man. The Tau also had a division. The Eldar have splintered into different sects. Who else? Well, the orcs live in this, division and then reunification under one war boss, and then they divide again if the war boss is dead. So yeah, they continue to mix and change like that every time. I'm also predicting that the Covenant are going to head down the same path, where there'll be some who go this way, there'll be some that go that way, and the Covenant as a unitary force will dissipate. It will be weaker, and then truly it will be another faction in Warhammer 40k. They won't be special. They won't be, the normal people. They will just be another faction that has to contend with the reality of this galaxy.
They can make more scarabs anytime they want, since it's not made by technology impossible to recreate. It's made by worms. As for their spaceships, let's run a comparison. The Apocalypse-class battleship is roughly 12 kilometers long. The CSO supercarrier is 29 kilometers long. Groovy. Want a bit smaller? Well, the CAS carrier is only 5 kilometers long, but it carries up to 40,000 troops. Not crew, troops. It's also armed to the fucking teeth and has energy shields.
I don't know how many troops do Imperium of Man ships carry, or the other factions in Warhammer 40k. But yeah, 40,000 sounds like a lot, but when you have to, consider hive planets, hive cities, holding billions upon billions of people, and there's like many hive cities on one planet. So yeah, 40,000 to me just doesn't. It just doesn't do it. It just doesn't do it. When you consider the PDF forces of the Imperium of Man, or you would consider the different organizations within the Imperial Guard, the Imperial Guard is not just one monolith organization. There's many different regiments within the Imperial Guard. And then you still have the other factions within the Imperium of Man. You have your Sisters of Battle, you have your Astartes, you have your Titans, you have your Tech Priests, you have your Psyker divisions, you have your Sisters of Silence, you have your Custodians, you have all of these different organizations under the banner of the Imperium of Man, the variety of forces. So I'll find it a bit difficult to see the Covenant making any sort of stride against the Imperium of Man. I'll find it also very difficult to see the Covenant have any type of advancement or positive gains against the Necron tier. The Elder won't really care about them. I don't think they'll care about the Covenant. The Orcs, they will continue to be a nuisance in their lives as the Covenant. They'll always be fighting against the orcs like everybody else. The Tyranids as well. I just don't see how they're going to, fare against the Tyranids and have victory against them. But maybe, what's his name again? PancreasNoWork can, explain how they will fare against the Tyranids or the Necrontyr or any other faction in Warhammer 40k. But right now, yeah, to me, they seem like they're going to be a small power or a middle power in the galaxy. And they will be contained in their own small little sphere of influence, like the Tau. They'll be contained in a very small corner of the galaxy, and, that's where they'll be left. Yeah. I don't see them being a very important fixture in the Warhammer 40k universe. Yeah.
Smaller Covenant spacecraft are still fearsome and are, of course, armed with ubiquitous energy shields and plasma weapons. I could go on about the various weapons and shit they have, and believe me, there's a lot to go over, but you get the idea. I wanted to give everyone an idea for all the stuff they could have access to if they were given a position in Warhammer Tabletop somehow. Or indeed if that Halo Tabletop game wasn't shelled, but that's its own problem. There's one thing I want to address before I get on with the rest of the video. Their technology as a whole and what it's capable of doing. A lot of Warhammer fans have this opinion. Warhammer wins against other universes because it's Warhammer. I hate that opinion. When someone says it wins because it's 40k, I want to crush them for heresy. Their heresy against the Great Journey, that is. In addition to that, the Halo games honestly sell the Covenant short in terms of their tech. In the games, a grunt shoots you with the plasma pistol and you go, "Come here, you little fucker," and turn him into a corpse. In the lore, a grunt shoots a marine with the plasma pistol and his torso melts off. The Covenant's level of technology is absolutely apeshit, but you wouldn't know that just playing the game. Every single one of their infantry has the option to grab a plasma weapon and go. Plasma, the thing in 40k that's close to the top tier of weaponry. Nearly all of the Covenant's weapons are plasma, and unlike 40k plasma weapons, it isn't a literal roll of the dice on whether or not it's going to blow up. In Halo, when a plasma weapon overheats, you burn your hand, go, "Aw fuck," and then it cools down. In 40k, when a plasma weapon overheats, it takes the operator and everyone in a 10-foot radius with it. Whoopsie daisy. I'm pretty sure it's possible to overheat a Covenant weapon like that, but it'd be on purpose. You can bring up individual weapons that are more advanced than what the Covenant has, and you'd be right. There are certain weapons that can out-tech what the Covenant has. I mean, the Prophets never played Pokemon with God, for one. But compare the humble lasgun to faction-wide plasma weaponry, and hopefully you'll begin to see why I think the Covenant can stand proud in 40k. You might wonder that they're so advanced, how come they didn't win in the Halo universe? And the answer to that is, they were winning, and nearly did. The Master Chief wasn't fucking around on an alien megastructure in Halo 3 because he thought it'd be fun. He was doing it because it was a Hail Mary to stop the Covenant from wiping humanity out. Almost every engagement that you would see beyond the scale of some ODSTs versus a squad of brutes was a loss for humanity and a win for the Covenant. Hell, Reach makes two things abundantly clear from the start. The planet is the largest and most defended one in human space beyond even Earth, and it's doomed to fall the moment it's discovered.
Slip space rupture detected.
Yeah, we're picking up anomalies too. Are you reading
Slip
it?
space rupture detected.
Good memories. Terrifying moment, but good memories.
Slip space rupture detected. Slip space rupture detected.
40% of all of the UNSC's Navy was deployed to Reach, and they still lost. It's not like 40k where the writers tell us the Imperium is fighting a losing war and then every battle we see they effortlessly stomp. The UNSC actually was about to lose and humanity was going to perish. It's almost like we never see what Covenant weapons can truly do because they're up against a version of humanity that can't hope to stop them. Sure, the Covenant probably wouldn't be able to stand to Dark Age of technology stuff or the pre-fall Eldar, but you can't count that because it doesn't exist in any meaningful way anymore. They don't have the ability to make that shit any longer. Plus, there's intentionally not enough information about the period to say for sure exactly what humanity had beyond really advanced tech guys for real. So saying that 40k wins because everyone used to have really cool things in the setting isn't an argument. It's a cop-out in the same vein as someone using an everything-proof shield during recess. On the topic of things that aren't me complaining, let's talk about slipspace. It'll be
Yes, in terms of their technology, the Warhammer 40k galaxy is very stagnant. The major powers are stagnant. They haven't been able to reinvigorate themselves into their golden era time of development and innovation, especially the Imperium of Man and the Eldar. The Eldar are a dying race. There are not many of them left. They're stuck on the craft worlds or on particular planets, or those that live in Comora they're too far gone to be helped. And there's other sects of the Eldar that are across the galaxy or in alternate dimensions. And, they're a scattered people. They cannot come back together again, not as they used to be. With the Imperium of Man, they are stagnant. With the Orcs, they have regressed. The Necrontyr, they are slumbering. Yes, some of them are waking up, but even with them, you can't really depend on them, being the Necrontyr of old. They are just lost in their own political miasma. So there's nothing there. The Tau are an upstart that might have potential, and the Covenant will be part of that group. That's what I'm saying. I'm linking these two together, the Tau and the Covenant. They are fresh. They are new kids on the block, and they are trying to kick off these old hags out of the galaxy. They're trying to kick them off, and it's not going to be easy. It's just not going to be easy, and that is why I'm also saying that the Covenant is just going to be a small power in this galaxy. Yes, they have technology. Yes, they have big ships, but they are outnumbered by the Imperium of Man. They are outnumbered by the Orcs. They are outnumbered by the Tyranid hive fleets, And if the Imperium of Man really wanted to focus their attention on the Covenant and defeat them, I think they would. Just because of their sheer numbers of fleets, sheer numbers of army personnel, they would overwhelm them. They almost did that to the Tau, but then they had to focus on the Tyranids because, the Tyranids were invading the galaxy. So they couldn't continue their crusade against the Tau. They had to go and focus on something far greater than the Tau. So, yeah, if the Imperium of Man really wanted to, attack the Covenant, I'm sure with their sheer numbers, resources, fleets, they could do it. They really could do it. Yeah.
Quick, so I don't bore you to death with the specifics of pretend space travel, Covenant slip space isn't as fast as warp travel can be. That being said, it's infinitely more reliable. The warp can take you across the galaxy in minutes, or you can arrive at your destination 1,000 years too late, or 1,000 too early, or you arrive and everyone in the vessel has aged to death, or been replaced by demons because you aren't just traveling through another dimension, you're traveling through hell. To be fair, Imperial warp travel is reliable. It's not as memey as the fanbase often makes it out to be, but that doesn't change the fact that things regularly go wrong and shit arrives late all the time. I could repeat this wiki article word for word, but I'll just let you read it. The short of it is that when you have all of these flaws in your FTL travel, something is going wrong. By contrast, while Covenant slip space isn't as fast as warp travel at its fastest, it's still pretty goddamn speedy. The speed they have is roughly 912 light years per day in slip space. That's pretty much instant between systems that are next to each other. So the Covenant could show up over an Agri world one day, glass it, then invade the Forge world the next sector over. Also, when something goes wrong in slip space, a single person disappears or you feel sick for a few days. When something goes wrong in the warp, the Dark Gods eat the soul of everyone involved. And because of how reliably made it is, these slip space problems almost never happen on Covenant ships, only the shit-tastic UNSC ones. Also, warp drives need to reach a certain distance away from any major celestial bodies in a system, or to put it in academic terms, shit's about to get fucky. Souls taken, ships exploded, planets corrupted, that kind of fun stuff. Covenant slip space drives, meanwhile, can jump mid-atmosphere and only cause damage to the surrounding city. In fact, the only reason they don't do this more often is that the reverse engineer tech is so advanced they don't know they can do it. They still appear directly over planets pretty frequently though, so on top of powerful weaponry, their ships also have an amount of mobility that 40k ships really can't match. Maybe Eldar ships? And I guess the orcs don't really give a shit about space OSHA protocols, so them as well. So I've talked.
Yeah, in terms of their FTL capabilities, yes, they are far superior, far more advanced, and safer than the current Warhammer 40k factions. Well, most importantly, the Imperium of Man. I don't think the Eldar use the warp for travel. They have their gates. What do they call them again? I forgot what the name of the gates that they use to travel. I forgot. Sorry. But yeah, and the other races also, they have their own FTL systems. I think the Orcs also use the warp. I'm not entirely sure. The Tau, they use a version of the warp. warp jump system, not really as effective as the Imperium of Men, or not as advanced, but something similar. And the Tau, not the Tau, the Necron tier, I'm not entirely sure what they use for faster than light, travel. But yeah, this is a very big advantage on the side of the Covenant with the slipstream or slip space jump FTL system. But is it enough for them to stand out as a possible contender for hegemony over the galaxy? I'm afraid not. It's not enough. Yeah. That's why I'm still saying that there could be a middle power or a small power in the galaxy. Nothing bigger than that. They'll be contained by the hegemony of the Imperium of Man, just like the Tau.
About why I think they're equal in 40k long enough. How would they act when put in this shitstorm of a galaxy? Well, first of all, I don't think it'd be hard to put them in 40k. Honestly, not really. Just a little bit of retconning and presto, they're located in some isolated corner of the galaxy and only discover humanity sometime in the late 30,000s. Maybe an Imperial Guard force responds to some planets losing contact before they themselves go dark, and the few surviving transmissions show a variety of strange aliens working in unison to take down the Guard. Then comes the official announcement.
For your destruction is the will of the gods, and I am their instrument.
After that, human world after human world starts going dark. Of course, this isn't a war the Covenant can win. Despite being able to fight on even footing with the Imperium, they can't produce on an even footing with the Imperium. It's too big. Casualties will be enormous, but the Covenant will be fought to a standstill. That being said, like many enemies in 40k, the Imperium will be unable to finish them off as they're surrounded on all sides.
Yeah, they won't be able to finish them off. They have bigger fish to fry, like the Tyranids. And like I said before, the Covenant will be contained in their own little space of influence, just like the Tau. They won't be able to push any further than what they've already gained. Yeah.
Have nearly enough industry to fight the Imperium on even ground, but in the stalemate that is 40k setting, they can certainly hold them off. The sides would enter a cold war that occasionally turns hot, with the Covenant seeing humanity as once again desecrating the gifts their gods left behind, with their dirty human footsteps. Only this time they'd be even more furious, because instead of just studying Forerunner artifacts, humanity would actively destroy it for being Xeno's garbage. On top of Mechanicus, of course, studying anything Forerunner they find. In fact, depending on what you do with the lore, they might even especially hate the Space Marines, seeing them as humanity's latest iteration of the demons they fought millennia ago. Psychers will be their greatest weakness. At first they won't have a goddamn clue as to what's going on, and even when they figure it out, they won't have much to do beyond shoot the guy making lightning come out of his crotch, which, to be fair, is an effective strategy, but it'll still be rough going for the poor grunt caught in a smite. As for the other factions, it varies. Covenant would despise chaos, a religion that isn't worshipping the Forerunners, combined with the fact it's mostly humans. Glacinate Chaos fleets on site, please and thank you. Plus, these humans are worshipping literal demons, so it's not like they need the encouragement. While some Covenant members might join Chaos for a variety of reasons, like grunts defecting to Nurgle for a better life, or brutes to Khorne because big stupid Smash God make Monkey Brain happy, most would likely stay in the path of the Great Journey and combat Chaos. Zinja Nurgle in particular would be on an avoid at all costs list between plagues and magic. The Tau would be ignored. Probably. First contact, if they did reach each other, would probably go something like, you join the Covenant. No, you join the greater good. And then there'd be a fight, and the Covenant would decide the blueberries aren't worth the effort. Though if they did decide it's worth the effort, 1,000 warships and an attack moon showing up over the Tau capital would probably change their mind on incorporating the Covenant pretty quickly. Before they're glassed off the face of the galaxy. In fact, speaking of the Tau,
I can actually see that happening, though. The High Charity just dropping in on the homeworld of the Tau and demanding their surrender. If they don't, they're glassing the entire planet. Yeah, I can see that happening.
well, the Covenant would probably be the nicest race in 40k in this scenario, which is so fucking weird to think about, but it's true. Their hate boner is reserved for humanity. As long as they worship the Forerunners, they'd probably welcome any other client races, and honestly, all those miscellaneous creatures in 40k that don't have an army list might end up joining them, if only for protection from the Imperium. They'd fight the Orcs, which is a revelation, I know. Plasma weapons help keep the Orc spores from spreading, so that would be in the Covenant's favor, but expect them to constantly be under siege as the Orcs realize those airy gits and split-jaw boys put up a proper fight. The Elder would probably be neutral with them, with the occasional spout of hostility when the Covenant land on a maiden world and BL Tan gets its panties in a twist over over it. Of course, the Eldar would most likely stick to indirect methods of warfare since they don't have enough of a tech advantage to outright smash the Covenant, and certainly not enough numbers to wear them down. Psykers once again will play a huge role in combating them. Dark Eldar would occasionally raid them for supplies and torture slaves, but as with every other faction, they wouldn't cause enough of a problem to warrant focusing the Covenant's full attention on them. Not that it'd help if they did decide to do that, given that Kamara is the most compact and defended shithole in the universe. The Covenant might even hire some Corsairs for.
And they'll have to figure out how to enter into the webway. That's the name I'm looking for. Yes, the Eldar use the webway for interstellar or galactic transportation. They don't use the warp per se, right? So yeah, just like the Dark Eldar, they use the webway, and the Covenant will have to figure that out. How they use the webway to go back and forth from their dimension into the Materium. So yeah. They're not really going to focus much on the Dark Eldar. It's not as if they could do anything to them anyways. Because they're in the webway, they're in Kamara. So yeah.
For a while, they can convince the massively arrogant Eldar to help for a bit. Unlikely, but not impossible. The Exodites would get the short end of the stick like usual. The first few Maiden Worlds would probably put up a fight until the Covenant learned it isn't worth the effort, and it's best to just glass them off the face of existence or turn around and find another planet to bother. And I have no idea what the Harlequins would do. Maybe capture some brutes and put them in a circus or something. The Necrons would have an advantage here. With both races lacking psychic powers, the much more advanced tech the Space Tomb Kings have will grant them victory often. That being said, any recently awakened or unawakened tomb worlds that are discovered would be glassed before they could get ready, and plasma weapons are still plenty capable of hurting the Necrons before anyone forgets that fact. I know I sound like a broken record with the plasma weapons, but it's important to emphasize, and I like saying the word plasma, so I'm going to keep doing it anyways. The Tyranids would probably be on their hit list too, because it's very likely they'd see how similar they are to the Flood and freak the absolute fuck out. They'd be more than willing to scour any Tyranid-infested worlds clear.
One single flood spore can destroy a species. Were it not for the Arbiter's Council, I would have glassed your entire planet.
But unlike any other faction in 40k, because they use slip space, they don't need to fear the shadow of the warp. Expect them to be pretty effective at dealing with Tyranids because of this advantage. Of course, the Tyranids
expect them to be pretty effective against the Tyranids if they have the numbers on their side. I mean, when a Tyranid hive fleet comes by your solar system, it's not just a couple of Tyranid forms. It's not just a couple of them. It's not just maybe hundreds or thousands. It could possibly be millions of them, And the larger Tyranid hive form vessels that go on for kilometers. There could be hundreds of those types. So it's not just going to be, we have plasma weapons, we can deal with the Tyranids. Our advanced ships can deal with the Tyranids. Our shields can repel the Tyranids. These things are not to be underestimated. They are not to be underestimated.
are still gonna vor plenty of Covenant worlds. Expect to hear curses against the parasite often. To end the video, I'm gonna say something that's gonna make a lot of people shit a brick. I think Space Marines, depending on the chapter, would get shit stomped by the Covenant. Now before you mail me a pipe bomb covered in cum, hear me out. I've talked about plasma weapons enough here, I won't repeat myself. But the thing is, a lot of Space Marine chapters don't fight in a way that would help them against the Covenant. They're obsessed with honor and closing the gap to fight in melee. Meanwhile, I think the Covenant has powerful enough weapons to take them down before they do so. The elites, like I said, are also obsessed with honor, but that honor isn't brain dead. They'll use stealth technology and any possible advantage to get the drop on the Space Marines. You might say a sudden rapid assault like drop pods is the answer, but keep two things in mind. A, the Covenant is able to shoot these drop pods down, they've done it before in the Halo games, and B, the Covenant use them too, often. They also have experience fighting the UNSC, who uses them as well, so they know how to fight back against them. So the Space Wolves or Blood Angels will deep strike in and hope to get the drop on the Covenant, only for them to get mowed down by two grunts on a plasma turret and a group of elites that drop behind them armed with energy swords and fuel rod guns. Of course, this isn't across the board, I'm just trying to point out that I don't think it'd be as simple as Space Marines beat Covenant, big surprise. The Spartans didn't.
I agree, it won't be that simple. But like I've said before, with the Imperium of Man, it's not just the Space Marines. There is a variety of forces belonging to the Imperium of Man. Most likely they won't be facing up against the Space Marines alone. There will be other divisions of the Imperium of Man's forces that will be landing with the Space Marines. That means Titans, that means the Sisters of Battle, that means Psychers, that means Tech Priests, that means the different organizations of the Imperial Guard, you know. Not just the Acadian Sharptroopers, not just the Elysian, what are they called? Elysian Drop Shop Troopers as well. I forgot what the name was again. But not just the Kriegers. You know, there'll be many other organizations, all having their own ways of fighting, all having their own ways of organizing and pushing against the enemy. So you're not just facing against the Astartes. The Astartes are like the cherry on top of the cake. You have to deal with the substance of the Imperium of Man, and the substance is not the Astartes. The Astartes are finishers. They're not starters. They're not the main course. And that's what you have to contend with. And that's where also the numbers come into play if you were to fight against the Imperium of Man. The Imperium of Man is capable of throwing millions of men and women out to fight against you, hoping to tire you down, hoping to saturate you with so much that you won't be able to handle all of these forces coming up against you. And then the finishing move is the Astartes coming in to clear out what's ever left, or taking out the key important targets. So yes, it will not be easy for the Covenant to defeat the Imperium of Man forces, and certainly it will also not be easy for Astartes to take out the elites or any of the other alien races within the Covenant. You know, the Astartes are not the golden key that opens all the doors to victory. No, that responsibility belongs to the Imperial Guard. They are the ones who are the key that opens up the doors to victory, I believe. Okay, let's continue.
Beat the Covenant by outflexing them. They use their superior wit and ability as the ultimate special ops unit that just happens to consist of demigods to outfight the Covenant at every turn, and even then they still took casualties often. Go play Halo on one of the higher difficulties and directly run into every turret you find for how that would work out for the Space Marines. Still, certain chapters like the Ultramarines with their adaptability would be able to stand their ground very well. And honestly, I think chapters like the Raven Guard would be the most feared because of how close they act to the demons the Covenant is used to facing. And the melee chapters would still bloody them. I just don't think it's a war of attrition they can win. And of course, a bolter is still a grenade launcher assault rifle. It's gonna hurt whoever it hits. Once again, the Covenant will view humanity's super soldiers as demons to be feared, but demons to be slaughtered nonetheless. So that's why I think the Covenant would be a great faction in 40k. Will it ever happen? No, of course not. Officially anyways. There is, however, actually a fan codex for the Covenant. In between third-party models and the dead Halo wargame, it isn't impossible to find some minis for them. Either way, I hope you had fun with part 1 of this miniseries. The Covenant, like I said, can't stop the 40k galaxy. Not even close. Let's see if the Forerunners can do better. Master Chief could take a Space Marine in a fight. Fuck you, fight me up.
Okay guys, that is it with the Covenant. Would be a great faction for 40k. Halohammer on the PancreasNoWork YouTube channel. Hopefully I'm pronouncing your name correctly there. Requested by Random Dude 74. Yes, the Covenant would be a nice addition to Warhammer 40k. However, they will be outshined by the other factions. You know, they will be set aside. Like I said before, I think they will be contained by the Imperium of Man, and they will either be a middle power or a small power. They won't have any sort of grand effect on the political dynamics or the military dynamics of the Warhammer 40k galaxy. They are simply outnumbered by the other, you know, far more powerful empires or factions in Warhammer 40k. They are outnumbered like at every turn. Whether it's in space or it's on the ground, they are outnumbered. I just don't see them becoming any more of a threat than the Tau to the Imperium of Man or to any other faction. And that is why also, you know, the Dark Elder at will just decide, you know what, we're just going to abduct some of your people here and there. We're going to take some of your engineers because of what they can do. We're going to take some of your elites because we want them in our gladiatorial battles. You know, they're not really going to be one of the main fixtures in Warhammer 40k. the main fixtures are still going to be the Imperium of Men, the Tyranids, the Necrontyr, you know, and even some parts of the Eldar as well. They are going to be like the main storytellers, also the Orcs, the main storytellers of Warhammer 40k. And then the Covenant, together with the Tau, they're like the B group. They are the B group within this, you know, galaxy. They're not on the A group just yet. Yeah, that's all I can say. But yeah, they would be a great faction. They would be a very entertaining faction in this galaxy. And yeah, you know, the Warhammer 40k galaxy does need more diversity. You know, after the great cleansing during the Great Crusade by, you know, the Imperium of Men, there aren't many Xeno races left. So the more the merrier. If the Covenant can come with all the different, you know, races, the more the merrier. It would be a very diverse cosmopolitan galaxy. Okay guys, that is it. Thank you again to Random Dude 74 for requesting that I should react to this video. If you guys want to check out the original video as well as PancreasNoWork YouTube channel, the links are going to be in the description below. If you like my reaction, please give me a like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Click on the notification bell if you want to be up to date with my latest videos, and I'll see you guys for part 2, hopefully next week. Okay, bye bye.